Flobis. Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi. He's wearing his tie today because we're going to continue our discussion of dogs with jobs. And today, this is the group we're talking about. Sorry, Tristan. This is a little Corgi pulling a sleigh with a Christmas tree. And Corgis are not usually part of this type of work that dogs do, which is the working dogs. And working dogs, in the AKC list include a whole bunch of different kinds of dogs. But we're going to talk today specifically about dogs that are used for draft purposes. And of course, guard dogs are in this group, and sledding dogs, and in some countries and in some places, a lot of the herders are in this group as well. But today we're going to just really talk about the dogs that do draft work. And these are usually bigger guys. A lot of the bigger breeds, Malamutes, are typically a good example of a dog in the working category, which is different from the working group that you'll see on the dog shows. But many of the dogs we're going to talk about are in fact in the working group. And so that includes dogs that are used for all different kinds of purposes to serve people. And, lots of dogs do stuff to help us, but the working group in general includes dogs that do physical work for us. Hi, you guys. So one of the ones that we're going to look at is the Malamute. And these are kind of the bigger, furrier, husky type dogs, and they are much huskier. And these dogs are used for their strength, and they are kind of even tempered, and they are great pets. They need a lot of activity, and they have quite a thick coat, so you need a good vacuum cleaner. And they howl, and they have been used usually to pull heavier loads in areas where there's snow. So the Malamutes have done wonderful work for people for hundreds of years and still are popular in parts of Alaska because they can pull heavier loads. Now, knowing what I know about dog structure, dogs are not really built to be draft animals. Not are horses really even, I don't know. But, a Malamute is a bigger, sturdier, stronger dog. And as long as people respect them for the 100 pounds that they might be and not overburden them. Malamutes and Akitas too are also considered working dogs that pull weights, loads of things. And then there's a whole lot of different dogs in this group that are considered guard dogs. We'll talk more about them tomorrow. But the Great Pyrenees, another great big fluffy dog, weighs like 100 pounds at least. Again, need a good vacuum cleaner. They're incredibly loyal dogs, and they really, really like their one person a lot. I've worked with a lot of Great Pyrenees. I worked with one that was over 15 years old. So for a large breed, these guys can last a long time on a good diet and with good care and regular exercise. And Pyrenees are known for being kind of stubborn, and they do use them to guard sheep in some places, although there's some related breeds that are better at sheep guarding. And they are also draft dogs as well. You can put packs on them, and they can carry things for long distances for you and them. If you're out working in the snow, of course, their name Pyrenees implies a dog that's good in the snow. And a lot of these working breed dogs are specifically for snow work. Because they are lighter, a horse would break through the snow. dogs are better able to survive cold temperatures than draft animals like horses. And so dogs can really be super useful to transport stuff in a cold environment. And then we have the Swiss Mountain Dog and the Leonberger. They aren't really related, but they're also two other large breeds that have been used to pull things. And then in this category, we're also going to have things like the Saint Bernard. Now, Saint Bernards can pull and they can carry, but they are well known for doing rescue in the snow. They've got those big feet that don't sink down into the snow. They have a big coat, big noses. Everything about a Saint Bernard is to help him stay warm and travel in snow. And so these dogs, we all know Saint Bernards are famous for rescuing people in the snow. A lot of European ski areas keep Saint Bernards there, and there will be a ski guide usually that has one, and they will help people on the mountain if they need help getting down or if somebody's injured. Saint Bernards are still doing a lot of work in the mountains in ski areas in particular. And then we have Samoyeds, which some people call Samoyeds. Samoyeds are also dogs that have been used in snowy environments for light draft. They are not really as known for that kind of work as like a Husky or a Akita or even a Malamute. And then that brings us to the Siberian Husky. Now, of course, this is probably, besides the St. Bernards, one of the most famous dogs that do jobs working, pulling. And we've all seen the incredible feats of Huskies in the Iditarod pulling sleds for days and days, hundreds of miles. They work well in a team. And so a lot of these dogs that work in teams, like the Husky, are actually really great because they bond with the person in the house, and they can become good house pets as a result if you can establish that rapport with them that you need when you're a sled dog working in a group. So Huskies, to this day, are invaluable, pulling goods around Alaska. A lot of there's a famous Husky that took some medicine during a time when people were dying and really needed a vaccine, and also penicillin, I think it was. But this dog was super famous for going through tremendous hardship and snow and cold in a really terrible environment, and really saved a whole town by transporting medical goods. So Huskies are still known to this day for their ability to do that, and I don't think many people in Alaska would consider being outside of the cities without several Huskies and a sled. So sled dogs are very, very important. And you know, you'll have noticed that it's not like taking a sleigh ride with a horse. You don't just sit in the back of a cart and let a bunch of dogs pull you. You are literally running along with them, and Huskies have been known to do amazing things. In addition to carrying, 2 weeks supply of stuff on their sled, with you running along behind and jumping on and off the runner so that you don't fatigue your dogs. Usually they're in a group of 6 or 8 when they're pulling. But they're also known for their ability to find people that are lost in the snow, and to help their mushers survive when there has been tremendous hardship when they're traveling. There's lots of books and stories about Huskies doing amazing things in the Iditarod. Interestingly, the Huskies I've known, and I've known quite a few because they're fairly popular in New England, they have a terrible sense of direction, which is pretty interesting for dogs that live in a white, plain environment. But they easily get lost, and they also have a tendency to want to follow their instincts. They get this look on their face and they just take off, and nothing can stop them. You have to be a pretty active person to have a Husky. They need to run or take very long walks several times a day. A fenced-in yard might not be enough. You might have to actually travel with them. And they're kind of well known as house pets for, hi, Merry Christmas, Amy. They're kind of known as house pets for not being walkable off a leash. A few Huskies in my area, I've known maybe one that was really good off leash. But most of them you need to keep on a leash because they get this glazed look on their face, like the call of the wild, and they just go. And if you can't run fast enough to catch them, I have several friends who have had Huskies and they have lost them for weeks and months, and they'll turn up 30, 40 miles from where they were lost because they just don't have that sense of direction we see with like Labradors finding their way home. So Huskies are great dogs. I love them. I always wanted a Husky, and I ended up with this dog who looks sort of like a Husky. Pointy ears, pointy nose. If he had his tail, it would fluff up like a Husky's. And they're wonderful dogs. And like I said, they are still doing work today, pulling people and supplies across the colder regions of the planet. So the working dogs, a lot of them overlap into the guard dogs. So we're going to talk more about that tomorrow. A lot of these bigger breeds are guard dogs. And one of the things that you need to keep in mind when you're adopting a working dog, the Bernese Mountain Dog, how could I forget? They are so popular now, and they have that oily coat, and they're really big. They're almost as big as Pyrenees, and they are actually big as some Malamutes. Some Malamutes are not as huge as others. They're a great breed, though. The Bernese Mountain Dog has an oilier coat, so there's a little bit more of a smell with them than with the Malamute, but Bernese Mountain Dogs have become tremendously popular in colder climates as house pets. And again, this is a working type of dog. These dogs need to run. They need exercise. It's like being a weightlifter to be one of these kinds of dogs. And similar to the St. Bernard, they are built to travel well in snow and to have packs on their backs or to pull sleighs or sleds. And Bernese Mountain Dogs really need a lot of exercise. They are not a good apartment dog. None of these big breeds are good apartment dogs unless you are a runner and you want to bring this dog out. And they aren't going to be very fast. They're built for endurance and strength. So if you want to really run, you want to whip it. But these bigger dogs, they need a lot of exercise and attention to what their skills are. And the other thing, a lot of these working dogs used to be really popular to pull things out of mines because they were short and strong. And these dogs were working in horrible conditions, underground, in the dark, breathing coal dust. It's amazing the kind of work they did. And maybe 200 and some years ago, they banned dogs in England from doing this kind of work. They also used to attach them to mills and have them walk in circles all day to grind grain. So I don't think it's any better that they replace the dogs with horses and people and cattle. Certainly, it's a hard life to walk in a circle all day long, grinding grain. So, luckily, a lot of these dogs no longer have their traditional jobs, pulling things out of coal mines, and ponies for that matter too. We've mechanized most of that stuff today. So, these dogs are used to having a really hard life of work, and their breeds are not significantly changed from how they were originally bred. So it's really important that you recognize this if you have one of these working breeds. These dogs are incredibly loyal, and they will really give you a lot of heart, and they will do a lot of things for you. I have a friend with the Pyrenees who loves to cross-country ski in the Pyrenees, will pull them through the snow. It's a great thing to do. Do not try that with your Golden Retriever. They are not built for that. It is not a fun thing for the Golden Retriever to pull you or your children around the lawn in snow. So make sure that you have a proper harness if you're going to do anything with dogs pulling. I know when I had a bigger Corgi and an older Corgi with DM, I thought the bigger Corgi should pull the old guy in the wagon. And I thank God that Corgi was a 35-pounder that was going to be doing the pulling, because I went to a lot of trouble to find him a proper pulling harness. We've got a lot of mushers in our area. It wasn't too hard for me to find a musher who knew where I could get a harness built for that Corgi so that he could pull. Now again, a Corgi is a long breed, and they don't have great knees, which is in the stifle where the back leg meets the tummy. And having that dog pull any amount of weight would have been really awful, and even with a good harness. So make sure if your dog is going to be pulling anything in the snow that you are not using the collar to pull with, and many kinds of harnesses are not fitting properly. Your harness is working to put pressure on your dog's chest to make him stop from pulling when you're walking. You don't want to encourage that kind of pulling by tying your dog to a sled and letting him run around the backyard with the kids. That is a bad idea. If you have a working breed with a working harness and a proper ground covering, not this ice out here, you want nice light snow that's slidey, then sure, yes, your dog is more than happy to do mushing. And there are plenty of people around here that use wheeled carts in the warm weather to train their dogs for winter mushing. So you can, if you have a working breed, do a lot of fun things with them. But if you don't have a working breed, please do not try to encourage that dog to pull things in especially just a walking harness. This is like a really bad thing to do with dogs. And there is a couple of cute things circulating around the internet with some corgis pulling a like flying saucer with another corgi on it. You know what? I can hardly watch it because I know what that pulling, even a 25-pound weight with two corgis, what that's doing to their backs and their hips and their knees. So if you have a working breed, yes, get the proper fitting harness. And plenty of these dogs are used for ski joring, which is cross-country skiing behind your dog. And it's really fun. It's popular in lots of places in Europe and colder climates up in Canada. So if you have a Malamute and you want to do that, it's a really fun thing. But if you have a poodle, it's not a good idea. So that's just a quick overview of some of the work that working dogs do. Tomorrow we'll look at more of the guard dogs, and we'll be wrapping up this series this week before we launch into the Christmas holidays. So thanks for joining us today. It sounds like they're delivering my propane out back, and I'm amazed the corgi's not barking his head off. Thank God. He's not working as a guard dog right now. He's working as a lap dog. So we will see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us today. And remember, unless you have a working breed with proper working equipment, your poodle or your golden retriever are not meant to be pulling and doing that kind of work. And even your other dogs, the bigger breeds, the Malamutes and the Pyrenees and some of the St. Bernards, even those dogs, if you're going to ask them to pull something, please have proper equipment for them. You may think it's fun and the dog may not look like he's having a hard time, but the long-term effects of this kind of stuff is not so good. So, we'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, I love huskies so much, Amy. They're so pretty. I'm not active enough for a husky. I can barely keep up with a corgi. Oh, some of the other dogs in this group, just an FYI, have been used to do messenger work. And Spitzes are a whole category in the working category of dogs. And the Spitzes are also used for messenger work and their work in snow. And Spitzes are one of the ancestors of corgis, which I find interesting. And they are related to chows as well. So we will see you tomorrow for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi, where we're going to look at guard dogs. We'll see you then. Everybody have a great day. Stay warm. We're having a warm up here in the east. It's pretty exciting. It's going to be 30.